Good morning, everyone. Adjust my screen here. How is everyone? Happy Saturday. I got the coolest gift in the mail this week from one of my clients. Um, for those of you who have been following my Instagram, oh my goodness, my sound is not working because I have these plugged in, but they're not in my ears. Hopefully that's better. Oh my goodness. So one of my clients sent me this. If you followed my Instagram for a while, and I cannot remember who was the one who originally said it, but somebody said, "You're a hope dealer." And I was like, "Oh my God, I love that." And so one of my clients sent me this sweet little coffee mug and it says hope dealer with a lemon. So it made my whole week. I got so excited. Good morning, everybody. I see lots of people. I'm still trying to get used to it. I'm doing it from my computer now versus my phone. And so the comments are over here. So, but thank you all for joining me. And we're going to dive right in. Oh, actually, first I wanted to say, thank you, Rochelle. I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old daughter. My 15-year-old is on TikTok. My 13-year-old is not. I'm really uncool. I don't really even understand TikTok. I don't really I've been trying to figure it out for a week and it's a little odd, but I kind of like it. And so my daughter has been saying for quite a while, you cannot get on TikTok. Absolutely not. Like that would be horrific if you showed up in any of my friends' feeds. And everybody kept saying, "Hi, Abby." Everybody kept telling me you have to get on TikTok. So anyway, I started a TikTok account. If you're on there, follow me at One Mom's Battle. And it's kind of addicting. I'm actually having a lot of fun. You only get like 60 seconds to talk or 15 seconds. And I don't know, I'm reaching, my goal is to reach the younger generation and start to tell them, what are red flags? What is narcissism? Because we need to educate them. This issue is just going to keep repeating and cycles are going to be repeated if we don't start educating. And so I thought, gosh, if I could even, teach one 16-year-old girl or boy, what the red flags are, what to look out for, I think it's kind of neat. So if anyone's on, Rochelle said TikTok has been a lot of fun for me this week. It's kind of, like I said, it's kind of addicting. I was like, at first, so my a girl who helps me with my social media, Laska, she is amazing, and she keeps telling me you have to get on. So I'm on. So come follow me. Um, Try to make the TikToks light so it'll go further. I am completely open to any and all advice. So if you are a TikTok pro, email me your advice, tina@tinaswithin.com, because I do think it's a great platform to reach the next generation so they don't become my clients one day. That is not what I want. um, Not a journey I would wish on anyone. So anyway, let's dive right in. I hope everybody's holding up okay during this crazy time. I know some people are still completely locked down. We had an ice cream truck on our street last night. I live on just the sweetest little cul-de-sac and the best families and people. And one of the moms on our street arranged for an ice cream truck to come by. So we were all out there with our masks and there were rules to follow and everything else, but it was really neat. It felt normal. So normal is really good. Okay, first question that came through, and just a reminder to anyone, if you want to submit a question, I'm taking them in order that I receive them, and you can email coffeedatewithtina@gmail.com, and try to keep it, don't, I can't read a lot of background online, so try to keep it as general and to the point as possible, and hopefully a topic that pertains to a bunch of people. I have to give my fine print disclaimer, I'm not an attorney, but I'm happy to share my wisdom and experience going through the family court system for 10 years. So any and all new strategies or anything you implement needs to get approved by your attorney first, because they are your voice and your advocate in the courtroom. So, um, all right. So our first question is, this person is preparing for trial in pro se. And she said, I know it's good to listen into other hearings, but I physically can't do that now. Is there anything online that would be a good substitute? My biggest concern is getting evidence admitted without an attorney. I bought a video course from the Maryland State Bar as a non-member on evidence and family law. Is there anything you did to help you properly admit evidence for trial? And she also wanted to know if I used case law. So my trial was back in 2011, so I was only 2 years into only. I was 2 years into my battle, and, I was starting to get the hang of things, in the courtroom. We were in court a lot those 2 years. I ended up connecting with a local attorney who was just a really good human, and I was originally going to hire him to kind of just guide me in the background, limited scope. And he ended up doing it for free because his wife was his paralegal, and they just kind of felt bad for me, I think. And so, we scheduled 2 hours. He sat down with me originally and told me, how to create my exhibits, how to prepare. And so I did have guidance on that in the background. And then we spent a 2 hour chunk of time uh, kind of role playing and him helping me to know how to get evidence submitted. I'm glad you went on to buy the course for your state. I know there are differences no matter which court system you're in. Um, if you can meet with an attorney in limited scope basis, even over the phone, I think it is so incredibly helpful. Somebody who's local to your court system, who knows the local rules and regulations, I would highly recommend that. I personally did not use case law. Back then, I was so overwhelmed. I was barely surviving, and I still have my binder. For those who have read my book, I talk about it. It's my pink binder, and it's like this big with every tab under the sun. And my ex-husband showed up in pro se that day, trying to stall things and get it delayed. So we were even like, is this even going to go forward? And luckily, the judge shut him down, and we had to go forward. So, find somebody who can help you advocate behind the scenes, help you role play, help you practice exactly how you're going to do it. It was life saving for me. I don't know how I would have pulled it off without that. The worst part of it, I don't know if your ex is also in pro se. The worst part of it for me was my ex-husband examining me on the stand. That was brutal and so ridiculous. Now I can read back the transcripts, and it's comical um, in some ways. But wow, talk about triggering to have your abuser asking you a million and the judge kept cutting him off, like, okay, you need to get to the point. This is, it was basically like the Seth show. So yeah, I'm going to kind of read some of the comments here. How did you organize your documentation? I do a documentation webinar every month. There's a new one already on the calendar for June. You can go to the One Mom's Battle website and at the top click online courses. It's unfortunately too much to explain here. I would do it in a heartbeat if I could, but it's truly it's a 1 hour webinar, and I even find myself talking fast at the end of it to try to um, deliver it all in that 1 hour. So, but the general, I guess, the general answer with anything for me, it was showing patterns of behavior. You've got people who are so they want justice, they want validation, and so they're in there trying to prove that the person is toxic, that they are a narcissist, a liar, and it can be very helpful. I know it was for me to show that my ex-husband lacked credibility. That was a turning point in my case. It took a long time to get there, a few years before the judge sometimes before court would verbalize, I want to go on record and state that Seth has lost all credibility in my courtroom. And so he would actually start proceedings. That was probably year 4, 5 maybe, but that was a huge, I think, showing that words and actions are not in alignment, and that this witness is not credible at all, can kind of be a shift in your case. But it takes a while to get there because so much from my experience is he said, she said, hearsay, and the judge can't entertain that. But focusing on patterns of behavior, and specifically the ones that affect your kids, that was really my goal, and what I did, not trying to prove he's a jerk, because even jerks are allowed parenting time. Even diagnosed narcissists are allowed 50-50 custody. I've seen it happen a lot, simply because there's no research or evidence to show what this person is like as a co-parent or a parent in general. That is something that needs to change, but it is the reality. So I would never try to prove that the other person is, toxic or bad. Just focus on their behaviors has been my strategy. Um, Somebody asked a question about child support, and I'll try to get to that. If I don't answer, if I miss any of your questions over here, please cut and paste them and email them to me at coffeedatewithtina@gmail.com. And like I said, I'll take them in the order I receive them. And we're trying to put on the YouTube what the questions are each week that we address. And that way you can kind of just look through the description of the videos and say, hey, that one pertains to me. I should rewatch that one. So, number 2, how did you keep going? Each time I go to court, I feel confident in my position, my documentation, my request and/or my defense to my ex's accusations. And then we walk up to the bench, the judge starts, and my heart sinks. I honestly feel as though the judge decided a long time ago that no matter what I have to say, no matter what the facts are, that I could document, that he isn't going to listen. I know your battle was long and hard. How did you keep going? What advice would you give to someone like myself who for 4 years has not been able to have my voice or documentation seen in court? Um, I've been there, and I can feel your pain and frustration, and I empathize with you because I do get it. I know for me, it was year 4 before things started turning around. And up until that point, the judge was so equally frustrated with both of us. We were both lumped into that high conflict category because back then I didn't know enough about, I call it like a hybrid culture, a mix between, all of the education and information about the narcissist, and then the reality of the family court system. And those two things combining make this almost Alice in Wonderland type bizarre world that you have to learn and learn how to navigate. And it makes you feel crazy and doubt your sanity. I know it did for me anyway. But learning that educating myself on that, on strategy and the importance of it, was life changing. So I would say it was around year 4 where things started turning around. You get to year 2, and if you're still in court on a regular basis, that's where the court starts to lean in and go, what's the problem here? Why are these people still in my courtroom? Because now it's crossed over. Two healthy people, even with a high level of conflict, can resolve things outside of the courtroom. And even if they do need to come into the court for relief and for help and guidance, it doesn't take 4 years. And so those are the cases that start to really stand out. And, for me, once I started really understanding what I was up against, it was removing myself as the part of the conflict at each and every turn. And there were times I have said in my declarations, I am perplexed. I don't think things need to be this hard. I believe this is about control and winning. And hurting me from the other side. Basically, I was describing post separation abuse, but I was putting it out there to the court that I'm at a loss for why things are the way they are. And, it's not overnight. And how did I keep going? You look in your little kid's face every day, and you have to. And there are going to be hard times where you kind of just need to take a break and put on your oxygen mask. And I've said it before, if you look back at my documentation, there's chunks of time, maybe 6 months at a time, where I didn't document a single thing. And that's not to say there weren't things that needed documenting. It was literally that I needed to step back and breathe. And, for me, faith came in really heavily when I was just, when my hands were tied by the system and I felt like they were failing us at every single court date. I had to just let it go, turn it over to my higher power, whatever that is for you. Um, and know that, what, I'm putting my head on a pillow every single night knowing I've done everything in my power. This is on the court system. If something happens to my child, I at least know there's nothing more I could have done. And so for me, sometimes it was just taking a break from all of it, learning to compartmentalize it so that when it wasn't, a topic, when I wasn't having to document the times I didn't have my kids, I had to stay busy. I had to use that time to refuel and fill my own tank so that I could keep going. And there were times that were darker and harder than others. I feel like sometimes people think, oh gosh, she won. It must have just been an easy path. If you would have interviewed me at year 4, I was beside myself. I was in therapy every week, trying to deal with this, trying to process it, trying to survive. And it was, around year 4 when they appointed a custody evaluator because the judge just got so tired of us, seeing our case on the docket. And he'd literally look up and go, Swithin, what are you here for? And I'd be like, just trying to protect my kids, Your Honor. Good to see you too. And so there's lots of ups and downs, and refill your tank whenever you can. um, let's see. Family law needs to be abolished and the whole system is a failure. It needs an overhaul. I will say there are some really great judges out there. I hear from them. I had a judge reach out to me from, I'll say the state, Louisiana, about 6 months ago. She had received one of our packets and she basically said, thank you so much for the work you're doing. It's so needed. And basically, I get it, which means my guess is she's probably had an experience like this with a narcissist in her own life, because those are the people who get it. And then I actually, a few months after that, had somebody email me who had been in her courtroom and said, when that judge opened her mouth and spoke, I literally felt like she was reading words straight out of your packet. And those 2 emails have probably been some of the best I've ever received. But there are different variations of that. There are judges who are acting in the best interest of the kids. Because I have a lot of clients all over the country, all over the world. And so I have a pulse on, where judges are getting it, and it's individual. And like I said, sometimes it really has to do with they've experienced this themselves, which is why they get it. But there are some really bad ones. There are some that are indifferent, they're calloused, they are just over having to watch people ping pong back and forth and see the worst side of humanity. And they probably need to retire or do a rotation in another courtroom. And, so it's all over the place. And yeah, I have yet to find a state that has it figured out. I think there are some states that are really, really bad. Um, but there like, please know there are good judges, there are good evaluators, there are good mediators. I hear the stories from people all the time. So it makes me want to move to Louisiana, right? Um, but that's not common in Louisiana. I'll tell you, that's not a great state, but a good judge. So it gives me hope. What county were you in for your battle? I live in San Luis Obispo, California. We are right in between LA and San Francisco. They're about 4 hours in either direction, and I'm kind of on the coast. So we have a major university and everything. So it's not a huge town. I think we have probably 90,000, but it's considered very rural. We Some of the things that happen here, I mean, we call it the wild, wild west. There's a couple of judges or commissioners where I'm like, okay, that you just did that or said that. It's kind of crazy. But I think every area has their own issues. So, question number 3. He refused to give the kids to me on my day. He filed a claim that I abused them. DCSF got involved. There wasn't enough evidence to support abuse. Police got involved, emergency hearing. Daughter is 10 years old. When she had to go back to mom, she was hysterical. He has her saying that I hit her. She's saying she doesn't want to be at my house. I'm wondering how to help her and help this behavior. I think she will do anything her dad asks to get his attention. And giving her dad the chance to give her protection attention is even more gratifying. I'm concerned for my kids' mental health and how to handle this situation. First, I'm really sorry. Horrible. And, these toxic individuals, they know that the number one way to hurt us is to weaponize our kids to inflict the greatest pain. And especially, I know 9 times out of 10, these individuals were never involved in the children's lives, in the home life. I know that was the case with my ex-husband, and so many of these kids are like dried up little sponges, just desperate for the attention of the other parent. And so when all of a sudden they're completely attentive, overly attentive, boundary crossing attentive, and it's confusing for kids. I always try to put myself back in my shoes at 26 years old when I met the narcissist in my life. And even with that limited life experience in adulthood, I wasn't equipped to deal with a master manipulator. And so, a lot of times in a situation like this, when the toxic parent is, trying to turn the child against you, and then you are now blamed for the reason they never participated in the child's life. Um, the real reason is because parenting is selfless. They're not capable of that. And so you become the villain because the toxic parent can say, you know what, now we have the opportunity to build our relationship. Mom was always interfering, mom was always blocking me. And now, it's just us. And, I'm Disneyland in a human form. Um, Absolutely painful. I hope your daughter is in therapy. I hope the therapist gets it. Um, I know, therapy can be really hard to get if the other parent is blocking it because it's a threat to them. Unless they hand select the therapist who's from one of these reunification, alienation BS things, then a whole nother story. I'm not going to go there. It's been a hot topic this week. So I'm trying to I feel like I need EMDR for parental alienation accusations myself personally, so that I can talk about it without being so emotional. But that's my own issue. Um, your daughter, you need to, okay, I'm going to rephrase that. If I were dealing with the same situation, I would be working to teach my daughter what boundaries are, what red flags are, what your truth is. Because if you know your truth at a core level, those seeds that are being planted by dad don't stay in the ground, they don't grow. And so there is no easy fix for this, and I've personally never experienced it. So I am just using, what I would do, what I see my clients going through, and it's a very common issue. Letting your child know I love you unconditionally, and use your actions to also instill that in her. But I am a firm believer in teaching all of our kids the things that they need to know to go up against one of these types of people, whether it's their parent or someone in our world, dating, whatever. Boundaries, red flags, your truth, that inner voice. And you can teach all of those things without ever saying anything negative about the other parent. These are general life lessons, but when they start connecting the dots to, oh, yeah, that's what my other parent does, it's way more powerful. And it sounds like you have a long road ahead of you. I would be personally, I would also be very strategic in my communication to the other party. Um, and that's really hard in a situation like this. And I don't know if there are restraining orders in place or not, but and if anybody else has been through this and have, this is, I don't have all the answers. I will never ever claim to have all of the answers. This entire thing defies logic in every category you could imagine. And so, if you've been through something like this and you have insight or tools that have worked for you, that's the beauty of this community. Um, my story is your story. I'm not special, just, I feel very privileged that my case was finally taken seriously and that my kids are safe today. But I'm just like you, and we're all trying to figure this out together. So please, as a community, support her, offer advice on any of these questions that come up, because I learn so much from all of you every single day. So Next question. I've been separated for nearly 3 years from my abusive, narcissistic husband, and we have trial coming up next month. Last month, I was granted a protection order against him for myself only. The peace has been blissful. How will a permanent protection order help in a custody battle? I need some help focusing my strategy. How it will help? First of all, congratulations. I find that they're really difficult to get because we are painted as hysterical and trying to get a leg up on custody. I remember talking to a worker from the women's shelter when I was physically in the women's shelter. And her question to me was, has he ever threatened your life? And I'm like, he's not stupid. I mean, he is, but he's not that stupid. Um, and it's just, even in the domestic violence agencies, I feel like there is lack of education on these issues. And so it becomes really hard for people to get an order of protection. Somebody has to really be over the top. So, congratulations on obtaining that. I know that you likely went through hell to get there, but I see all the time where attorneys try to pressure you to give up the restraining order in exchange for X, Y, and Z, whatever it is you want. I know for me personally speaking, I would never give up a protection order. Um, I have seen it play out several times where you agree and give that up, and then the very next month they go, or the very next week, they go and file for 50-50 custody because now there's nothing over their head. And so now you've compromised and given up on certain things, and now you're right back to where you were, except you don't have that protection. And so be really careful. Find really good legal counsel to guide you on these things. And specifically, even if they don't understand narcissistic abuse, domestic violence, they have to understand domestic violence to properly guide you on these things. So, how will it help in a custody battle? I don't know how early on you are into this, but I know that from my vantage point, it sets the stage. It paints a picture. So much of this in the beginning or throughout your case is painting a picture for the court of who you are, who the other party is, the presentation. And to have a restraining order approved under the same roof of the courthouse, it does have a lot of weight, and it sets the stage and paints a picture that this is somebody at a minimum who doesn't, can't honor boundaries. But on a max, on the other end of that scale, could be full blown sociopath, narcissist, dangerous, whatever it is. So, I think it is very helpful in getting your message across that this is not a healthy person. So, okay. Protection orders seem like the holy grail as far as difficult. Yes, obtaining them. Absolutely. They are way too difficult to get. And the threshold for what's acceptable is there's a huge gap in the family court system's belief of what's acceptable and ours. And I think some of that comes into the whole victim blaming mentality that the court has, that we married these people, it's not their job to fix it. What documentation would be acceptable to prove alienation? I don't believe in alienation, and I know this will get me a hell of a lot of hate mail, or I do believe that toxic parents have behavior or have strategies to turn the kids around. I won't use the term alienation. If you want to know why, I'm happy. I'll post in the comments. My If you really get into the alienation world and the players involved, Family Bridges, these programs, so what I will tell you, alienation claims are the number one claim that a narcissistic abuser will use. That is what my ex-husband used against me. Had I had any other evaluator on my case, I would have been found guilty of alienation and I would not have my kids today. I have parents who were significantly abused, and just because their narcissist goes into court and has a judge that believes in alienation, their kids are now completely removed from their life. So, as much as the whole alienation movement terrifies me, it should terrify you too. And I have watched videos of kids being ripped out of their homes in their pajamas, screaming by big gorilla, security people, little kids pulled out of their homes. I can't unhear that. What is happening, and therapists and reunification therapists are getting major kickbacks from these programs to stamp an alienation label on your case and take your kids from you. I teach people how to avoid alienation claims. It's so much of it is in presentation. This is obviously a big topic for me. With anything, if my children were, being turned against me, I would be focused on patterns of behavior from the other party to show their toxic behavior. But would I ever use that term? Absolutely not. And where it really, I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday when you are using that term, like here in San Luis Obispo, we have one judge who not only doesn't believe in alienation and believes it's junk science and has traced it back to Gardner and his pedophilia ties and everything else, which is where this movement originated. She teaches other judges in the state of California that alienation is bullshit junk science. And so if you're standing in her courtroom trying to prove an alienation case, she's holding a poker face, but she's probably mentally preparing for her next training. So I would never use that term in a million years. And even that quack Childress is repackaging it again. He's written books on alienation, and my guess is, I have no idea. I've heard from other people, and I don't know if it's true. He's probably under fire from his board about him promoting something that has no basis in reality, and it has been proven to not be scientific. Or recognized by any credible organization. And so now he's repackaging it again. He's going to call it another name and take kids from healthy parents and send them to these camps. So thank you. Oh, don't read. Somebody said I reached out to Childress before I realized who he really is. $3,300 to talk to him for an hour. That guy is so bad. My personal opinion. Last September, my ex-narc, thank you for letting me go on that rant. I really told myself I wasn't. Let's see. That was actually it. That was the alienation. And so if you are facing alienation claims, and I would personally be working to disprove those. My stance has always been my ex-husband's own behaviors and abuse are what, if he wants to talk about alienation, focus on your own behaviors. You are alienating yourself from the children. And that's usually what it comes down to. So, and I knew those allegations were flying in every direction in my case. So what I did was Halloween, he didn't have the kids. I'd send him a picture on our family wizard. Here's a picture of the girls in their Halloween costumes and video, say hi to dad, in their costumes. Things like that, sending weekly updates, monthly updates, involving him. Even when he checked out and left for a year, I was still sending him report cards. Even when I got sole legal custody, I find so many people make the mistake of thinking I get to parent and I don't have to, involve the other parent. When I got sole legal custody, I still involved him in every single decision that needed to be made, from schooling to health to, I communicated with him as if we were still 50-50 legal parents. And I believe that's why I kept that. I see so many people who take that to mean they don't have to share any information with the other parent ever again. And that's a good way to lose it, in my opinion, to go back to 50-50 legal, which you don't want to do. It's all about presentation and showing yourself to be the healthy parent who is child focused. And, that is my truth. Every single step of the way throughout this battle, I have remained focused on my kids and that guiding me, and constantly lifting my vision and going, I got an invitation to these 3 battles, but I'm only going to engage in one of them because the other 2, it's just bait and I won't take it. So we are way over time. Let's see, that's because you had pure motives from the beginning. Absolutely. Angelica said, I'm so glad I came across you this month. This is a fresh breath of air. I've been feeling overwhelmed for the last year. Welcome. There are so many of us going through this, and it's such an isolating thing. I started my blog in 2011 and wrote my first book in 2012. But when I titled it One Mom's Battle, It was truly because I felt like the only mom in the entire world going through these issues, and so there is such power in this community and people coming together and supporting each other and feeling validated and feeling heard. It's powerful. And, no matter how you use your voice, whether you are not able to speak about it publicly at all, or you're like me who's just out there blasting the world, you know, what you're going through, how can you use it in a positive? Maybe that's running into somebody at a store who's going through a difficult divorce and sharing your story and enlightening that person that you're not alone. Join this group. There's power in numbers. Speaking of groups, before we end, um, I have all of the One Mom's Battle state chapters up and active. So there's all 50 states. There's also the UK, Australia, and Canada. If you want to know how to apply, go to onemomsbattle.com and click the blog. And one of my recent blog posts is about the OMB state chapters. These are private groups on Facebook. I have really strict requirements for allowing anyone into the group. It's not for everybody. I do require driver's license because I want to know that who you say is who you are. I don't want exes in the group. I don't want trolls in the group. And so I do have strict requirements, but it is so powerful to come together with other people in your state. I know our California chapter has grown over 100 people from all over the state. Other chapters are still really small right now, but I'm adding people daily to get to connect with other people who are under your same jurisdiction and laws, and you get to know them. Entrench yourself in this part, for your battle for education, and get the support. It's a give and take thing, and there needs to be balance. But come on board, and there's going to be some weeks where you have your oxygen mask on and you can help others, and then there's going to be others where you're waving the flag and going, help me, and that's okay. It's about balance. So where can we chat and support each other? The One Mom's Battle Facebook groups. I have a private forum called the Lemonade Club. um, be careful on Facebook, even in the secret Facebook private groups. If your Facebook is subpoenaed, and I see it happen a lot, every single thing you've ever written, whether you deleted it, whether it's in a private message, will all come up from Facebook on the subpoena. So I like to warn people, yes, we have the private groups. Still, it is the internet. Be careful about what you put in writing. But the Lemonade Club, it's thelemonadeclub.com, and it is a private, it's $25 a month paid forum. I have somebody who screens each person, and it's an application process. And then each month we are going to start doing a live Zoom call for all of the members of the Lemonade Club. Feel free to join over there. If the Lemonade Club is, somebody asked how private and secure it is. Very, very private and secure. We've never had a problem at all. Knock on wood. Anyway, thank you all so much, and happy Saturday.